So welcome back, everyone. I'm excited about bringing on my next guest, who has been on with me at least 8 years now, more. I'm sure more.
This is my fifth time.
All right, now you got me laughing. You got me started already. Michael Van Vleck, and he's the owner of DENALI Real Estate.
Yep.
Finally, after how many of those 8 years did I say it wrong?
Only twice.
No, I think more than that.
No,
You're being
twice.
nice. You know, Mike, thank you for being on, and thank you for being supporting the show and being here
Of
for
course.
as long as you have. And well, I'm going to say, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, so
you're going to wing it.
first of all, as a local business owner, it is important to me. I do want to express, if I may, what the purpose of me being on the show is. Not just to convey things to our audience, but also, for me, being here has helped my business tremendously.
That's so sweet of you to say.
And here's why. And so for folks that listen and they're trying to promote their business, one of the most significant things you can do as a business owner is talk about what you do in a succinct way that people can understand easily, and to do that in the marketplace. So being on the show for me has taken me from maybe not being able to articulate what we do and how we do it very well. And by coming on the show, in most cases, maybe not today, but you have to prepare and think about it in advance. And with that, though, you come up with a better thought process of how can I succinctly say what we're doing. And so it's helped me tremendously, not just by being on the show, but in many facets of what we do now. So it's been tremendous.
Well, I appreciate that.
So for people that are interested in doing that, you kind of feel like, gosh, I don't feel like I'm communicating well what I do in my business. This is a great platform for people to do it, because you do so much of the work. They've taken out all of the trouble of, I have to worry about all the things that happen here to make this happen. You do all of that.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that most of the guests, especially ones that have been on for a long time, that, I get to know you pretty well.
Right.
And I make it so that they don't have to do anything. They can sit down and basically let's just talk from the
Green
hip.
light, go.
Yeah.
It is like that. And so for me, that's a tremendous thing, because then I can focus on the other parts that are more meaningful while you take care of all of the technical things that happen and all the buttons you have to push on the radio to make this happen. And
There's a lot of buttons.
oh my gosh, those volume buttons, I don't know what they do, so I stay away from that. You have me sitting in the corner, so I don't touch those. So,
Well, one thing I do want to say is that for me and having everybody that I know like you that come on, I appreciate it so much that you support it.
absolutely. It's definitely a great thing. It's great for our community. It's a great learning process for me.
It's fun.
So
I
it
always
really,
tell everybody it's a blast to do.
yeah, no, it really is.
It is fun.
One thing I was thinking about today, kind of a segue, was when I grew up, my parents were very hardworking people. They worked tremendously hard, and their lesson to me was, you show up, you work hard, you show up every day, you do not miss, you know what I mean? I'm not the call-out sick person. I 3 out of 4 years in grade school, I had perfect attendance.
I never knew that about
And then the 1 year, I missed like 2 days. They never let me, you go.
And you had the measles or something.
You're going.
Oh, yeah. Well,
You
that
show
was
up.
the way it was. People
You show
used
up.
to be. And, it's almost a feat when you think about that. It's a tremendous...
Sadly, it is now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, wow.
especially-
So the point was, they always taught me work hard, work hard. What was missing, though, was they didn't have a formal education really past high school, and they did work hard, but they weren't able to teach me lessons about how to get ahead in life. Right? The concept was work hard, find a job, work there for 30 years, 40 years, or whatever it was, and hopefully at the end you'll be in a position where you can retire and collect your Social Security. But there wasn't a process of looking forward to say, here's where I am today, and here's where I want to be tomorrow. There wasn't any concept of that. There's no preparation. I tell my kids, what are you today gonna do for the you of tomorrow to make your life easier tomorrow? Like, are you gonna hurt the person of tomorrow, or are you gonna help the hurt person of tomorrow? You have to think about that. There wasn't any of these concepts. And one of the things that I realized is that a lot of what's perpetuated in the world is we do what we think we're supposed to do because everyone else is doing it, right? And so for, my parents were, don't take a lot of debt, don't borrow money from the bank kind of people. And it took me into my 30s where I realized there's a difference of debt. There's bad debt and there's good debt. Bad debt is stuff that isn't an asset. It doesn't appreciate over time. It doesn't provide cash flow. Good debt, which is things that you borrow for, are things that can appreciate. So like, for example, a car. You can borrow money on a car to get a car, but it's a bad debt. The car goes down in value over time. It's worth less later than it is today. That's bad debt. We all do it, but that's not considered an investment. So my parents never were able to express these differences. And by the way, this is highlighted very well in the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which a lot of people have read. It's a great book. Robert Kiyosaki has lots of different books, but this concept is in there. And Poor Dad isn't, my intent is not to talk about the book, but the principle of it is the poor dad isn't poor, he's poor in the education of the principles, right? That's the poor part, not financially poor, but the principle part, it's poor because you're not elevating yourself over time. So I did learn over time, like, hey, there are advantages both in our tax system and in the economy that an average person can actually set themselves up when they get to the point where they want to retire and have a consistent level of income. And sadly, it doesn't take a great deal of effort in your life to outstrip what you will ever get for Social Security. It's very minimal what you need to do that. Sadly, you're going to pay into that system your whole life and get very little back for it. But there is principles and ways in which you can do this. And we're segueing into real estate. I'm taking a long way to get there, but
It's okay.
for example, one of the first things I did when I was in my late 20s, so all the listeners are in their 20s and 30s, I said, look, how can I buy my first investment property? I'm 27, I don't have a lot of money, what do I do? Well, the one thing that I did is I went and bought a property as an owner-occupied home, right, with the intent of renting it out. I actually had a partner. We bought a 4-unit property together, and we lived in one of the units. So we only had to put 5% down on that in that particular moment. So for the two of us to put 5% down on a little 4-unit building, we lived in one of the units for a couple years. It was a great start, and it cost us something like, at the time, less than $10,000 each.
And what's been the return?
I mean,
You still have it?
I do.
I bet.
I mean, so between the two of us on this $10,000 investment, it is now a 7-figure return, like 7-figure dollar amount.
That's what real estate is for you.
It
This
can
is
be
the
if you
thing.
do the right thing.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people don't realize that really, and financially, that is the number one. It's still number one for you to have in your portfolio.
It can. It's, and we'll talk more about this when we come back from the break, but it is one of those investments where you can use borrowing and leverage to your advantage, right? This is where the borrowing comes into play. You can put that, if I had put the $10,000 in the stock market, it's not leveraged up with a loan, right? So I can't exponentially grow my returns. And that's a pretty significant principle of real estate investing. It doesn't take a lot of money to allow your investment to grow. And we'll talk more after the break about how that happens.
Check him out on his website. It's DENALI ARIZONA.com. His phone number to call direct, it's 480-626-4062. I love the conversation. I can't wait to come back and talk more. Again, it's DENALI ARIZONA.com. Pretty neato. I love that way you did that.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, good.
I do. And I was wondering, are you still doing that school thing that you were talking about that the last time? It was a while back that you were here talking about that you
It was
were
a couple months
starting.
ago. Yeah, so what
Are you
we've
still
done
doing
is,
that?
yeah, so it's taken on a whole another level. So like we're now educating other real estate agents around the valley, and from that I've created a consulting program now to help them. It's all free, by
I
the
know,
way.
you told me that.
So, and it walks them through the steps one by one, like how you can become a real estate agent with investor clients. How, you know, like what did I do, and plus a whole bunch of extra stuff. And so we have one of the biggest, we have a call, I think it's Tuesday of next week, with one of the biggest title companies in the United States, has said that they want us to be exclusive for them to provide this.
Oh,
So
wow,
what
that's
we're doing is we're gonna end up creating a master class from it, which is for like higher end agents
Oh
to
my
do that
God.
too.
I
Yes,
can
it's
see
pretty
that
good.
being huge.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's, I mean, we're gonna
Having
talk a little bit about.
downloadables for people to take and just learn on their own. And
Yeah, so we have a whole bunch of content of like, okay, as an agent, you're trying to do this, but I have people on our team that are supporting them, like, oh, you have questions, you know, and you have an investor that wants to do this, that, and the other, or questions about whatever, okay, we'll support you, we'll help you, I'll get on the phone, or my team will get on the phone, and we'll figure out, you know, what
That's
you need.
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty big, and there's no one else doing it, so, yeah.
That's awesome.
So like, if you go to an agent and you say, look, I mean, as a company, we have over 900 clients, we have over 900 current clients.
It's amazing.
Right, so it's like,
huge.
if you want to be working in this space, look, this is the stuff you need to do, I'm giving it to you for free. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you gotta do. Just work hard, follow the process. It'll be good.
I wish that people.
It's ongoing. It's a process, but I think by the time we get into June, it's gonna be full scale.
Oh, that's so phenomenal. I love that. I mean, and you're really just helping people out there.
Yeah, and you know what ends up, we position ourselves as a good partner, and then, you know, when they get to the point where they need services like ours, they're like, you gotta use them.
Yeah.
And we get to help along the way, so it's, you know,
Yeah,
it's a good
it's a
feeling.
win-win, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's good. I'm glad that we're doing it.
Oh, I'm excited.
It's been a lot of time, it's taken me a year to put it together.
Wow, it's been, I mean, you've been working on a lot of different things.
Oh my gosh, so many things. We're opening up a Las Vegas office here soon. I have a commercial division opening up, so we'll manage commercial real estate soon.
I don't know how you do it by yourself all
It's
the
pretty
time.
big.
Well, you don't, not by yourself.
And I have a restoration company that I'm running with a partner too, so that's another, it's great.
Oh my God, here we go. So welcome back, everyone. We're talking with Michael Van Vleck. He's the owner of DENALI Real Estate. And we were just saying how we were gonna segue into real estate.
Right, so, you know, one thing that we were talking about is really how easy it is, truly, it doesn't take a lot of money to save up a lot of money to be able to buy your first real estate, piece of real estate, whether it's a condo, a townhome, or a house, right? It could be whatever, you know, you fancy. And I always recommend, especially for folks that are younger, occupy the home for a year, 2 years, and then move out and rent that one out. And I've done that a few times, and it's worked well over time. The one thing that people miss is that they don't understand how the compounding works, and they don't understand all of the benefits of owning real estate and what that can afford you. So most people will say, okay, the benefits of owning real estate is that I get to collect rents. And, you know, they might say in the beginning, well, my rents barely cover my expenses, or maybe not quite. It's off by $100 a month, so that's potentially a bad deal. One of the first properties that I ever bought in Arizona, it didn't cover the expenses. So when there were repairs and the HOA dues or whatever, I paid for that out of my own pocket because the rent didn't cover it. Okay, so I've had that house now for 15 years. And since then, the rent has more than doubled over that time. So the spread now between what I have to pay every month versus what I'm getting well covers the mortgage, the principal, all the expenses. And by the way, since I've had it, the tenant has paid down the mortgage more than half.
Wow. I mean, yeah, what I think about when I listen to you with talking about that is that you know, any business that you start in the beginning, there's an out-of-pocket.
There is.
There has to be, you know, and it doesn't just happen overnight. And I think that's the problem, is that
Yes.
every single person out there wants everything to happen overnight.
I do think there's sort of this awakening that I see with the folks that are in their 20s. And here's what I mean by that. I have some people on our team that are in this boat. I have nieces and nephews that are in this boat. And so what happens with this awakening is they've been spoon-fed their whole life on the social media, glitz and glamour, get rich quick. If you're not a millionaire by the time you're 18, then you're doing something wrong. And, you know, so they have these crazy expectations that life is going to present this, you know, these Lamborghinis and all these things when they're in their 20s. And then they come to the realization when they're in their early 20s and they have to start working, it doesn't exactly work that way. But to their credit, while they're not the best communicators yet, because they've been used to texting and social media, I do find that they switch very quickly to say, okay, I'm ready to get down, I'm ready to get dirty, and I'm ready to get something done.
That's
So
awesome.
we have great young folks on our team that have been that way, right? They've gone through this cycle and like, okay, I'm willing to take the steps that I need and not shortcut it and do that. I have a couple of people on our team that are in their 20s and they're on their second and third homes that have done this house hop. They buy a house, live in it a couple years, save up their money, then they do the same thing. They go buy another, they only have to put 3 or 4% down on that one, and they rent their other one. And you know, it doesn't take very long before you find yourself where you're like, oh my gosh, I have 5 houses.
You know, and one time I remember asking you, because you have a lot of investors that you work with, and on a very professional level. Hundreds. And I asked you, well, do a lot of them have a lot of property?
No.
And they don't.
No, I think our average is 1.7 per client, right? So in other words, if you add up all of our clients and the properties we manage, it comes out to 1.7. So most of our clients are 1 to 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like they may have had one, they realize as they're going, they get some equity building up, they get some tax deductions, some other things like, wow, this isn't such a bad deal. The hard part for people is the management part, right? It's like, oh my gosh, I have to manage tenants. I have to go through this process of screening tenants and dealing with maintenance and all these things, and it really can be overwhelming, especially when you're just starting out. And I think for that, hiring a high quality property manager can be a big help.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And so, by the way, when somebody calls our office, one of the first things they do, they say, hey, I've got a rental property, or I'm thinking of investing. We say, okay, you got to find a good property manager. Here's the questions you need to be asking. Here's our answers to those questions. But now go out and call and talk to people and find the one that works for you. But we don't go about the process of selling people on management. We explain Property Management 101. What do you do?
I love when
what do you
ask.
ask?
We've been doing it on the show
all day long.
forever. I love that.
Mm-hmm. And we'll say, here's questions you need to be asking, and here's why. Here's the things that other people do that you may not know because they won't tell you, but you ask them about it and see what they say and go about it from that way. And so I think there's ways that you can do this. I mentor lots of younger folks that are wanting to do this, and they need to understand how, and they need to know, what do I have to do? And really what it takes is discipline.
Absolutely.
Am I going to sacrifice my happiness today and a little bit so that the me of tomorrow will be better off?
If I had it in my way to be able to do something like this, I would hire you because I know how successful you are. And but I want people to understand though that you have to be coachable.
Of course.
You know.
I think the hard thing is that, you know, when I look back at my life, the I wish I would have is only, I wish I would have known these things sooner.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have had somebody that was willing to take the time to walk me through these things or explain these things to me, or at least be there if I have questions. It's really hard to find that today, and because of that, and because I personally have been in that circumstance, I've always taken the approach that our position for Denali Real Estate will be that we will help people first. And whatever path that takes them, however they float down the stream, wherever that leads them, is okay, as long as we've done our part and helped them. We give them good information to make good decisions, right? I mean, that's the idea.
We've been saying that
We do.
forever.
But this is the concept, right? How can we help people to get there? I think if you lead with that and you know you're truly helping the people, then the rest takes care of itself.
His phone number is 480-626-4062. It's DENALIArizona.com.
So when you think about this, okay, how much money do I need? Let's just say you're gonna buy a $400,000 house, right? And you need 3% down, that's $12,000, right? So your down payment would need to be $12,000. So in that case, you have to work backwards and say, okay, how can I save $12,000? If my goal is that I wanna buy this in 3 years, then I need to save $4,000 a year, right? Divided by 12 months, you gotta save, what is that, $300 a month. So, you can say, can I save $300 a month? If I stop going to Starbucks, if I stop eating out junk and all this other stuff that you should be doing, if I sacrifice a little bit and I save my $300, if I do that for 3 years, or maybe 3.5 years, I have enough to buy my first house.
I think what's really cool is when you break it down as simple as that.
It's not
and
a lot.
It's doable. Is the
Imagine
point.
if you're 27, you say by 30, I can make this happen by 30. Okay, you make it happen by 30, and then by the time you're 33 or 34, you can do it again. By the time you're 40, you can do it again. By the time you're 40, even at that slow pace, you already have 3 properties. And by the way, if you say, on average, by the time I retire and I'm 60, I'll have 3 properties totally paid off, right? And they each make $2,000 a month, that's $6,000 in retirement that you wouldn't get otherwise.
It's amazing what real estate can
Small
do.
discipline, right? You're like, hey, I basically saving $300 a month will set me
So
up.
how many people out there that are listening right now would say, you know what, I could do that, you know? And
You know
it's
what the
just-
best part about it is everybody's circumstance is different, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you say I can't save $300 a month, but I can save $200 a month.
It
Okay.
doesn't matter how long it takes.
It doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't. In
And-
my case, when I was young and early, I'm like, I'll get a second job, I'll do whatever.
Right.
If I get a second job and I work an extra 20 hours a week, I could save $1,000 a month.
And do you wanna talk about the new program that you're gonna have?
We'll talk about that next time.
Okay.
We only have 2 minutes, so
Okay, finish
it
up.
goes fast.
I know it does.
It does.
This is when we start to rant.
I mean, I think the point is, people say this all the time, it's never too soon to consider your future, but the real question to ask yourself is, what are you doing for you of tomorrow? Like, are you going to, if you're sitting on the couch and you say, look, I'm supposed to get this done, okay, well, if you're not gonna get it done, you're leaving it for the you of tomorrow, which is gonna make it worse. So, you gotta choose and make that decision, but I believe, and I've worked hard over the last 15 years to say, what am I gonna do for the Mike of tomorrow to make his life easier? What can I do today? And I can tell you
love
this,
that about you.
I'm
Not
very
everybody,
grateful.
when you meet him, would never think something like that.
But I'm grateful for the me of 15 years ago, because man, that guy, he worked his butt off and, he made it easier for me, thankfully.
Isn't that neat? But you know what, you like to share with other people, and you like to make sure that they know what you know, because it helped you so much. It
I
made
didn't
you-
get it, I had to be the self-learner, right? But,
But now you're there to help other people.
if we can, we do everything we can.
And if you're looking for somebody like Mike, he's the person to call, because there isn't anybody that I know like you out there
Thank
that
you,
is
that's
so
nice.
willing to do so much for others. Also, a great property management company as well. And so you could call him direct. His phone number is 480-626-4062. You can check him out on his website, which is DENALIArizona.com. Again, 480-626-4062, DENALIArizona.com.